when science meets the spiritual worlds. Emanuel Swedenborg, 1688–1772, was one of the most fascinating thinkers in human history, a brilliant scientist, engineer, and mathematician who suddenly abandoned academia to explore what he called the inner worlds of consciousness. Trained in physics and anatomy, Swedenborg believed that every aspect of the physical world corresponded to a deeper spiritual reality. Eventually, he claimed to travel beyond the limits of ordinary perception, into realms of spirit, heavens of light, and symbolic landscapes that reflected the inner structure of the soul. Whether taken literally or metaphorically, Swedenborg's vision describes a universe layered with meaning, where consciousness is the bridge between the visible and the invisible, and where matter is simply spirit made dense. For him, reality was not one-dimensional, but a multi-layered revelation of the divine mind. The scientist who went beyond science. Before his mystical awakening, Swedenborg was a respected scientist who studied astronomy, physiology, magnetism, mathematics, and engineering. He dissected the human brain in search of the seat of consciousness, convinced that beyond biology lay something more mysterious. Then, in his mid-50s, he experienced a sudden inner shift, vivid visions, altered states of awareness, and what he described as direct perception of the spiritual realms. He did not reject science. He believed spirit and matter were two dimensions of one reality, obeying parallel laws. In his view, the universe was not a random accident nor a mechanical machine, but a living, conscious order. Everything outward had an inward cause. Every form in nature was the shadow of a deeper spiritual truth. Correspondence, the mirror between matter and spirit. Swedenborg's most important idea is what he called correspondence, the principle that the physical world reflects higher dimensions of consciousness. Nature, symbols, dreams, emotions, even architecture and language were, he believed, expressions of unseen spiritual forces. Just as the body expresses the soul, the material universe expresses the divine mind. For Swedenborg, this meant nothing in life is random. Every event, every relationship, every struggle is part of a symbolic language through which the soul is educated. The visible world is not the end of reality, it is the beginning. To awaken spiritually is to learn how to read the universe, like a text written in living symbols. This idea foreshadows modern theories of holographic reality and simulation. The intuition that behind the physical lies a deeper code of meaning. The multi-layered architecture of the cosmos. Swedenborg described reality as layered, not just physically, but spiritually. In his mystical journeys, he claimed to travel through multiple degrees or heavens, each more subtle and luminous than the one before. In the lowest realm, forms still resemble physical experience. In higher realms, thought and reality merge, and beings communicate through direct knowing rather than language. These were not fantasy worlds to him. They were the inner architecture of existence, the stages of consciousness itself. He believed that every soul naturally gravitates to the level of reality that matches its inner state, not by judgment, but by resonance. The universe, in other words, is structured by consciousness. You don't go to heaven or hell. You awaken to the frequency that already lives within you. Heaven, hell, and the landscape of the soul. Swedenborg's descriptions of heaven and hell are psychological, not punitive. For him, hell is not a place of fire, but a state of consciousness dominated by ego, fear, and separation. Heaven is not reward, but the natural experience of love, wisdom, and unity. In these realms, he said, the outer environment matches the inner soul. A loving consciousness experiences a world of harmony. A selfish one experiences contradiction and suffering. This is why Swedenborg insisted that spiritual transformation happens on earth, through choices of intention, compassion, and awareness. After death, the soul simply becomes transparent. What was hidden becomes visible. The next world, he said, is the world of the soul revealed. The human mind as a bridge between worlds. Swedenborg believed that the human being is uniquely structured to exist in both physical and spiritual dimensions at once. Our consciousness is partly anchored in the body and partly rooted in eternity. Dreams, intuitions, imagination, and mystical experience are not illusions. They are glimpses of the inner worlds breaking through. This means that every person carries a doorway to the infinite within themselves. Spiritual growth is the gradual opening of that inner sight as the soul becomes receptive to divine wisdom. In this sense, meditation, prayer, contemplation, and moral self-awareness are not religious duties. They are the technical means by which consciousness awakens to its true, multidimensional nature. Human life is a school of perception, the divine mind, and the purpose of creation. At the deepest level of Swedenborg's philosophy, God is not remote or hidden. God is the very life that animates all existence, the source of consciousness itself. Creation is not a static product, but a continuous outpouring of divine love and intelligence. The universe exists so that consciousness can evolve, awaken, and return to its source in freedom. Every soul is a unique expression of the divine mind, and yet all souls are interconnected in one spiritual organism. Love is the architecture of the cosmos. Wisdom is its direction. Freedom is its law. To Swedenborg, enlightenment is realizing that God is not out there, but present in the depths of consciousness, the inner sun that illuminates every world, visible and invisible. A universe alive with spirit. Whether one takes Swedenborg literally or symbolically, his vision changes the way we see reality. The universe is not a cold container of matter. It is a living hierarchy of consciousness, layered from physical to spiritual, from form to essence. Nothing is meaningless, nothing is isolated. To awaken spiritually is to see how every experience, every relationship, every moment is part of the soul's dialogue with the divine. Swedenborg offers a universe where death is not an end, but a transition, where consciousness is immortal, and where reality itself is the unfolding of divine thought. In a time when science and spirituality seem divided, Swedenborg reminds us of a deeper truth, that the cosmos is not mechanical, but mystical, not dead, but alive, a multi-layered revelation of the divine mind, discovering itself through creation. The inner worlds are real. Emanuel Swedenborg stands at the crossroads of science and mysticism, insisting that the laws of the physical world and the truths of the spiritual world are reflections of one another. He invites us to look deeper, to see matter as condensed spirit, life as a symbolic language, and consciousness as the bridge between worlds. The universe, he taught, is layered with meaning. When inner perception awakens, the soul discovers what was always true. We live not in one world, but in many, and all are alive with the light of the divine.